So now that I have officially gotten my samples in from my manufacturer, it is time today to create some product imagery. My name's Jacob Harris, and this is today's episode of Quest for Success. Let's do this thing. So first things first, my space is a little bit crazy. We've just got D&D miniatures everywhere, paper everywhere, this broken house that I'm 3D printing, more miniatures over there. I'm drowning in the stuff because I freaking love it, and I can't seem to get enough of these little plastic figures. Don't mind that. So let's do a little bit of tidying up. While I do love this wizard hat, it is incredibly itchy. But we got the space a little bit more cleared off now. I think we got room for creativity. Creativity and imagination. And so I went to the craft store and I got a couple of these just poster boards. Got some blue and some white and some black. And I think I'm gonna end up using the black. And what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna lay it down here, prop it up, set up a little light situation, and see what kind of results we get. So I've got the backdrop set up now, and for lighting, I think I'm just gonna try and use this light magnifying glass situation I've got. I use this to paint my minis up, and it works really well for that. And because my product is so small, I think it's just gonna work dandy. Let there be light. Yes. So here's my little setup, and this light is quite bright, so it's gonna work just fine. What's great about it is that it's on this arm, so we can kind of create these interesting shadows and really just move the light wherever we want it to. So if you're wondering why I had the sticker on this side, it's because the other side has already been used and it's got some scuff marks on it. Did I make this look any better with the black ink? I'm not sure, but it'll be good enough because we're gonna end up photoshopping it anyways. So here's our little setup, and this is kind of what it's looking like through the lens. I think it's looking not too shabby. So let's start taking some photos. And in terms of camera gear, today I am shooting with my Sony a7 III with the 24-70 G Master lens on there. I've had this camera since the day it came out, and I've had this lens for a long time as well, so I really can't recommend the combo enough. It just creates stellar imagery and stellar video as well. And here's what the images are looking like. I think they're looking quite nice. And what I like to do is just, for safety, make sure that we are nice and sharp. So I'm gonna do a little zoom in. And yeah, we're looking all good here. And to the title. Yeah, that's looking great. All right. And if you wanna know my settings, here's my settings. I was at 1/80th shutter, I was at f5.0, and I was at ISO 1600. When I first started in film and photography, I always shot wide open, and that was to get a cinematic look. And what that means is I would turn my aperture to the absolute most open setting. So on this lens, that would be a f2.8. And while that creates a really dreamy background, the background's all nice and soft, what it also does is it makes certain elements out of focus that you actually might have wanted in focus. So for this instance, if I had shot this box on a f2.8 instead of an f5.0, you'd get an image where only a sliver of the box is in focus, and the dungeons wouldn't be totally in focus, or you'd have to choose between the artwork being in focus and the title being in focus. And I really wanted the whole box in focus. So I sacrificed a little bit of my noise. So I added in a little bit more noise by increasing my ISO to 1600. But the trade-off is that with a little bit more noise, I end up getting a sharper image for the photos of this box. In fact, a lot of classic Hollywood films are shot on f4.0 and above. You watch those classic movies and you don't have this extreme blurriness in the background that maybe some of the more modern movies look like. I've kind of changed my mindset on shooting wide open as I've had more experience in this industry. Okay, now we're gonna move on to taking photographs of the stamps. Here they are in all of their glory. But before we do that, it's time for a pot of tea. All right, now that we've fixed ourselves up a cup of tea, we can get back to work. So I went to the craft store and I picked up some of these paper clips. My hope is that I can use them to kind of prop up these stamps, to maybe make them look like they're sort of floating in the air, and then I'll go in and Photoshop out the paper clips. So here's my goofy little setup. We got the stamp propped up on the paper clips there, and then if you look at through the lens, we've got a nice clean image of the stamp, and then we'll just clean up all this afterwards in Photoshop. And without a tripod, here is my setup stacked up on some tape and some boxes. So I've taken photos of all of the wooden stamps, and now it's time to take photos of the acrylic stamps. And you know, this product has really been on quite the journey. It all started when I had the idea to create stamps for D&D. I was really tired of all the 3D printing that I was doing, and I wanted something that was quicker and easier. And my wife had gone out to a lino cutting night with her friends, crafting, and came back with a ton of lino cutting supplies. And after a night of us lino cutting, somehow the two ideas merged in my head, and I thought of making stamps for Dungeons & Dragons. So that next morning, I got a little piece of wood, I got some lino, and I started carving away. This was my very first prototype. And this was my very first map. So I wanted to make a little demo piece to really just prove the product to myself over anything. And I was super happy with the result, because this is a totally usable map for playing any RPG on. As you can see, I made a little wall stamp here as well, and just some basic tile stamps. And from there, I spent a long time drawing and kind of learning how to use Procreate, getting used to drawing with an Apple Pencil, and I drew up my first set of stamps. At first there was a whole bunch of them, and I had to sort of pare them down to, you know, think about what's most useful for the first set. And they really have been used and loved. Check this one out, it's just so dirty. But now, we've got these lovely samples from my manufacturer, and I'm just so thrilled on how they turned out. And really what I'm most excited about is the potential for creativity that these stamps give everyone in the D&D community. You know, I think this is just going to be a fantastic resource to create maps for your games, or, you know, maps for handouts, player handouts. And I'm just really, really excited to see when these finally go out in the world what everyone is able to create, because I'm hoping people create some pretty insane dungeons with them. And now that the photos are done, it's time to take them over to the computer to do a little bit of photo editing on them. Here are our photos that have come in, and I must say, it truly has never been easier to edit photos. So this has kind of been my process. First, I'll just show you a little before and after. This is the before, that is the after. So how did I get there? Well, I did a couple very simple steps. First, I'm gonna go over here and just honestly hit auto, and that kind of puts it into a decent little color space. And then I went over to these presets on the side, and Lightroom has these really nice presets, and I went over to the curve, and I found that I really liked this flat preset. It kind of just got us into a nice space where the blacks are lifted, they look a little bit more matte, and it kind of just dissolves that paper background into nothing. And over here we can see our curve. And I found this to be just a little bit too flat. So what I did was I just took the shadows and I dropped them back down to be kind of where they were supposed to be. And I took the highlights and kind of, oops. Oh God, previous. Okay, we're back. So I just brought these highlights up a little bit more because I found that if they were too far down here, they looked a little bit unnatural. So I just kind of wanted to get them back to their natural space. And there we have a nice clean image of the stamp. And then the next part was getting rid of all this green tape and these paper clips. So how I did that was I went over to this little eraser tool up in this bar, the remove tool. You could also hit Q to get there. Of course, with everything these days, it's got AI integrated into it. So it uses some sort of generative AI to fill in the space. But you kind of just take your brush here and drag the area that you want to be removed. Here we go. Just gonna rough this in. Oh yes, oh yep. And there we have the selection made for what we'd like to remove. And we're gonna go over here and click remove. And it's going to use its little beep boop computers, ones and zeros, to get rid of this backdrop, to get rid of the nasty green tape and paper clips I had. And oh, there we go. So let's just deselect it to see how we did. And look at that, now we have a clean stamp just floating in the air. And I did it to every single stamp, all the way along the line. Because the acrylic stamps were clear, I just left the paper backdrop because I thought it looked quite nice. And I just used that delete tool just to take out any blemishes or unwanted elements. And I think this turned out really, really nice. Here is the photo of the box. There's the other one. And so with all the stamps photographed, their backgrounds removed, I added some text just to label them. And this is a really nice menu of what you get in the box and what I'm gonna be putting on the Kickstarter page to show everyone everything they get with the stamp kit. And in order to create this ad, I took the photo of the box, I took the new drawing, slapped it on top of that, and then I started adding in these photos of the stamps. So I just added them in, and I removed their backgrounds and added a little bit of text, and there we go. We've got a nice little ad. And this ad I used for my Facebook banner photo. I also did a different version, different sizing for meta ads, and it's actually been converting really well. So yes, that is how I took my product shots for the Kickstarter campaign. I think they turned out really well. And yeah, in terms of that photo of the box with the stamps behind it, I've been running that as a meta ad, and it's been completely outperforming all my previous ads. So if you've seen my ad on Facebook or Instagram, you'll notice that it has a little sign up button below it. And that's how I can collect some email addresses so I can notify you when the Kickstarter actually launches. And to get those email addresses, to get those leads, it costs money. So previously I was doing about $1 to $1.50 per lead, but with this new box photo, I was getting a lead price of 50 cents per lead, which I think is really exceptional. So thanks for joining me on this behind the scenes video of how I took these product shots. I hope it was valuable. I hope you learned a thing or two. And please, drop a comment below, like, subscribe, looking for any engagement to help boost this campaign to get it to where we need it to get for my quest for success. I'll see you guys next time.